Hey guys, welcome to Bookmark with Jess. I'm Jess and I'm excited to be doing my very first YouTube video. So this isn't actually the first video that I filmed. I've been filming videos for the last month to try to really kind of hard launch this channel. And you may be wondering, what is this channel going to be? And the answer is, I don't know. I'm just kind of putting together an eclectic collection of things that I really enjoy, whether that is, hello Winnie, there's my cat, whether that is TBR videos, book reviews, thrifting, Weenie. Whether that is TBR jar videos, book reviews, thrifting, decorating my home, etc., etc. Just things that I really enjoy doing that I want to share with other people. I'm a mom, I'm a healthcare provider, I'm a wife, I'm an avid church goer, I volunteer in a lot of different capacities. So I don't always have a lot of time to do any one thing. So I just want to share kind of the things that I do, self-care, to take care of my own mind and to remember that I am a person first and that I matter. So this channel is going to kind of keep me accountable in those ways. So I'm excited to share those things for you. And if you want to be along for this ride to kind of see how my channel changes and develops over the next couple of months, feel free to like and subscribe. I would love that. I would love to grow this channel and have a community of people that have similar interests and similar values. So I think that would be really fun for us all to connect in that way. So if you're willing to do that, if you're ready to go on this journey with me, then make sure to subscribe and we'll do this together. So today we are going to do my TBR video for December, and then I also want to review the books that I read in November. Usually I will read anywhere from 5 to 8 books a month. This month I had kind of a slower month because of Thanksgiving, because of work things, and honestly because I went on a girls trip, which was super fun, and I have a vlog coming for that. So that's another great reason to subscribe, is to watch the vlog for my girls trip, which is the piece I'm proudest of at this time. So I want to go over the books that I read this month, kind of give you the synopsis or the synopses and tell you how I felt about them. And some of them may be contrary to the way other people believe. And I'm nervous about sharing some of those ideas, but it's my channel, so I'm just going to tell you how I feel. This was not a regular reading month for me. I didn't read a lot of books that are my genre. I was kind of stepping out of my comfort zone because I knew that I would be stepping back into my comfort zone and reading some more early romancy books for December, just because it's that Hallmarky time. So I wanted to make sure that I read some different things to kind of have a little palate cleanse as I'm walking into the next month for December. So without further ado, here I'm going to go ahead and review the books that I read in November. I actually read 5 books in November. The first book that I read was Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I was really looking forward to this book. I checked it out from the library and read about half, and then it was due back because I read it so incredibly slowly. This book is not an uninteresting book. It's actually a very interesting book. However, the writing is so flowery that sometimes I would be like, it is just not necessary for it to be that flowery. And I'm not saying that I don't love like beautiful writing. That's really beautiful writing. But sometimes. So at this point is where I lost audio for whatever reason. If you look, it looks like my mic just died. So that stinks because this video is really long. But what I'm saying here is that I feel like this book was really great, but the writing was so flowery that it was sometimes difficult to keep up with, and it made it a lot more difficult to understand. I did, about halfway through this book, switch over to do an immersive read where I listened to the audiobook and read the book at the same time, tandemly, and that did help me understand it a little bit better. This book is definitely not one that you want to just pick up and read kind of nonchalantly. You need to be able to really read it and take your time with it. And I did end up rating it 4.5 out of 5 stars. It is really good, and I would like it better without such flowery writing. The next book I read was The Austen Affair. I am a Jane Austen girly. I love Jane Austen, and that's all I'm saying here is how much I love Jane Austen. I have loved Jane Austen since I read Jane Austen for the first time in British literature when I was in college, and I fell in love with her sarcasm and all the tropes that she's willing to explore and kind of the just silliness of that time period. This book is actually about an actress who is playing, I can't even remember which book it's from, but she's playing a main character in one of the a Jane Austen remake, and her co-star is a grumpy grumperson, and she is trying to get him to like her because she, a lot like myself, has pathological need to be liked, and she can't make him like her because he doesn't really like anyone, and they end up traveling back in time, and of course it's a romance, so they end up falling in love, but I won't give it all away. I loved all the magical realism in this book, and I'm kind of looking around right now because I'm trying to find the name of the author that I think it reminded me a lot of, and that was Ashley Poston. So if you love Ashley Poston, I think you're really going to like this. I also rated this 4.75. The next book that I read this month was Running Man by Stephen King. It was originally published under the name Frederick Bachman, which I think is a really cool story. I wanted to read this book this month because the movie came out, and I was really interested in watching the movie in the theater. I didn't make it to the theater this month, but I was really impressed by this book. This was the first Stephen King novel that I've ever read. I'm not a horror girly. I don't like things that are scary. I don't like to be scared or be stressed out late at night. But I really enjoyed this. So this is basically about a man who enters into a reality TV show where basically the entire country is trying to kill him. And if he dies, then however many days he stays alive, his widow and his daughter will get the money to be able to treat her illness. And if he survives, he gets like a crazy amount of money. So I really did enjoy this, especially up until like the last 2 chapters. I don't know what else I was expecting because Stephen King's not going to have a bunch of happy endings, but I did really enjoy this book, and I would totally recommend it. So I would rate this one 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I picked up this month was Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green. I really loved this book. It's a nonfiction, so I'm not going to rate it, but it was just a really good, what's the word? A really good just synopsis, maybe? No. Just a really good in-depth look at tuberculosis, because in the United States, we don't really think of tuberculosis as a current disease because it is treatable and because we never see it really in healthcare, only occasionally. And it's treatable, but in other countries where they don't have the same access to healthcare, it is still very deadly. So I think it was a really great look at that. It was also a very intimate look because the writer is telling real life experience of him meeting people who have had tuberculosis and then the different interactions he's had with those people. And it was just a really touching story. So I would totally recommend this. The next book I read was The Bright Side of Christmas. I read it on Kindle Unlimited. It is free on Kindle Unlimited, and I'm going to put the photo here. I really enjoyed this. So I would say it is similar and comparable to the pumpkin spice latte, cinnamon bun bakery, that kind of stuff, but it's done so much better. I really enjoyed this story. I loved the character development. I loved the backstories that we learned about these characters. It was just a lot less fluffy, and it's still a fluffy, silly, good time, but it was just a really great story. My favorite part is that they are bickering back and forth, and she's literally decorating his lawn against his wishes, and then he kidnaps her 6-foot-tall nutcracker. I think that is just hilarious. So it was a really great book. I really enjoyed it, and I flew through it. I also loved the cover and the little outfit on the cover. So if you know where I can get that exact outfit, please comment in it down below, because I need it, because it is the perfect little Christmas dress. At this point in the video, I am really excited to choose my TBR, so I really hate that the audio was lost. This is going to be so super weird, but I do want to kind of just give you the reason that I saw these things. Right there, I was just talking about how afraid I am that I'm just going to disappoint everyone, because I am going to put 6 books on this TBR, but what if I don't read them all? Are you guys going to hate me? It's so early on in our relationship for you to hate me, but I hope you don't. So I'm going to do my best to read every book that I put on my TBR, But of course now I know which books I put on my TBR. But obviously at this point I did not. This is my cutie little TBR jar. I actually thrifted this, and this piece is actually a vintage piece. I don't think that the lid is original, but I really loved it. I was going to make a candle and give it to somebody for Christmas, but I decided it just had to be my TBR jar. So there's 50 different prompts in here that I'm going to go through and hopefully pick some really good prompts that you guys will enjoy. If you have ideas for prompts, comment them down below. I would love to know what you think a good prompt is. I honestly just used some online prompts for this. They're not very specialized or anything, but I just wanted something that was easy to do for this first video. So let's get to that first prompt. All right, so here we go. I'm gonna kind of shuffle them up a little bit. They made a really cute sound, but obviously you can't hear it. So I was trying to reach the ones at the bottom, so I didn't just grab the first ones that I put in. So the first prompt was book you picked because of the cover. So this was kind of a tough one for me because I tried to read it backwards and I could not. So there are a couple of books that I read or I picked just because of the cover. The first one that I'm going to pull out is actually The Heartbreak Hotel. That's one of my book of the month picks, and I absolutely love the cover. I think it's so sweet, and they just look precious on that cover. But is it a little bit too fall? Would I like something a little bit more wintry, a little bit more Christmas? So the other book that really came to mind when we're discussing this prompt was Good Spirits by B.K. Borison. And I literally just bought that because of the cover and because of the sprayed edges. I got them on Amazon, and I saw this book and I was like, I've got to have it. I mean, I literally bought it the minute that I saw it. So it was kind of hard to decide. I really do want to read The Heartbreak Hotel, but I'm going to wait on it until another month because it is Christmas, so I want to focus on some Christmas reads before it's kind of not timely anymore. So the first book on the TBR is Good Spirits by B.K. Borison. So moving on to the next prompt, going into our TBR jar. The next prompt was a book you've been saving. So I kind of had a hard time with this because I don't really save books. I honestly read them pretty quickly. When I get a new book, I'm pretty excited about it. I know that's hard to believe when my TBR has like 50 books in it, but there are a bunch that I really think that would be good for this prompt just because I really like them. I pulled out a couple that I thought would fit with the prompt. Okay, so I was trying to decide between these three for a book that I've been saving. So the first one that I was considering was, of course, Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. I tried to read this earlier in the year during the summer, and honestly, it was so heavy a couple of chapters in. Just the context. I have a very close friend whose father is suffering with Alzheimer's, and I just really couldn't put myself through it, to be completely honest. Just watching her struggle, I just couldn't do it. So I didn't know if it was like just this month that this was going to be a problem, but I definitely don't want to have those feelings during December when I'm trying to be holly and jolly. So I decided to pass on Say You'll Remember Me. I will read it because I've loved everything Abby Jimenez has ever written, but I want to see what this is all about. I'm sure that I will love it, but it's just, I want to have something excuse me, I want to have something a little bit more joyful since it is Christmas. The next one I was considering is When in Rome. This is all over my booktube, all over Book Talk, but there's probably a lot of other tropes that are very similar. That kind of bakery vibe is going to be pretty popular in the other books that I'm going to be reading this month. So I couldn't really decide, and I thought, I'm not sure what would be best. I do think that it's something that I will eventually pick up in the future. And my last choice for this prompt was Wandering Wild by Lynette Noni. I've actually never read anything by Lynette Noni. I know that's crazy because she has so many phenomenal books that everybody raves about. I was really interested in this one. I just love the idea of them being in the outdoors. I thought it seemed like a really great story. So I think it'll be fun to kind of break up the Christmassy stuff, have a little adventure. So this will be the next book on our TBR, Wandering Wild by Lynette Noni. All right, so the next one coming out of our TBR jar, again, trying to pull one from the bottom. 2 fell out, but I decided to just stick this one back in and pull the one that was in my hand. So this one is a book with a one-word title. So this was actually really hard for me because I don't have a lot of books with one-word titles. I mean, I think that's probably pretty common. A lot of books are 2-word titles, even if it's just the is the first word. So here I am just trying to figure out what would even fit. So obviously sword heart does fit. Sword is one word, heart is one word, but it's a contraction. It's definitely one word. So that was the first one that I looked at. I also looked at Older, which is a age gap romance, and then the last one that I considered was then my last option for books with one-word titles was Vladimir. It's supposed to be an intimate look at marriage and motherhood and expectations. I do think it's going to be a really good book, but I think it's going to be one of those that's a little bit more complicated. So I definitely wanted to explore something different for this particular month. Here I am talking about Older, which, like I said, is an age gap romance where she actually falls in love with her best friend's father, which honestly, that trope can be all right, but it has to be done really, really well. That's one reason I've been putting this book off for a while. The other 2 books really did seem interesting, but I decided to go with Sword Heart. I needed a little fantasy to break up the romance. I mean, yes, it's a romantasy, but there is a difference. So I think I needed something with a little palate cleanser, and sometimes that's a fantasy. So back into our TBR jar. Let's see what comes next. The next one is the oldest book on your TBR. So I couldn't figure out if that was the book that has been on my TBR the longest or if that's the oldest book. So I decided to look at it in 2 different ways. So obviously I have books that have been on my TBR a little bit longer. When I looked a little bit closer, I noticed. So one that I've kind of been waiting on is Rebel Witch. It's been on my TBR for some time, but I read this book back in August. I had planned on going directly into Rebel Witch, but did not. And now here we are in December, and I haven't read it yet. So it was really something to consider. But I did think about it for a little bit longer and decided I'd rather wait and take my time with that book, not just for the sake of finishing out the year strong. So I'm going to wait on this one and then try something different. I got really excited about this next book because it's Skipping Christmas by John Grisham. This is actually going to be my book club pick for the month. The book club that I'm in is actually not even considered a book club. It's just people coming together to discuss books, which I think is really fun. But this is the book that's part of it. As far as things go, this is one of the oldest books on my TBR because it was originally published in 2001. That Dead Zone by Stephen King is probably going to be a little bit older than that, but as far as books that kind of fit into what I'm wanting to do for the month, this book is perfect. All right, time now for our TBR jar. So reaching into the bottom, let me see what I can find. Getting close to the end here, so I have a couple of more prompts to pull. This one is a book recommended by a friend. So this one I kind of struggled with because I do have friends that read, but we don't really read the same things. They are big fans of like open door romance, and while I don't dislike it, it's not something that I want to read frequently, and I really don't want to read it unless it's propelling the story forward. So I decided to focus on books that my booktube friends, people that I follow on booktube, and see what they would recommend or what they have recommended. So I decided to take a look at Stalking Jack the Ripper by Carrie Maniscalco. This was recommended by Rachel Catherine. Excuse me, I'm beeping here. You would know if there was sound, but fun fact about me, I'm actually type 1 diabetic. I've been living well with type 1 diabetes for 20 years. I do wear an insulin pump and a continuous glucose monitor, so if you hear anything beeping in the background in any of my videos, it's probably just me trying to stay alive. So anyway, Stalking Jack the Ripper is supposed to be a YA novel. I don't know that it actually is, but I do think it's going to be a good addition to the TBR. Looking at the next TBR jar prompt, a romance book. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. It is Christmas. I love a romance, especially at Christmas time. And there are so many in my TBR, so it's kind of hard to choose. But I knew I wanted to choose between one of those Christmassy books that I have available. So The Christmas People is about grumpy people at Christmas time. And the other book that I wanted to compare was Love Light Farms by B.K. Borson. It was kind of a difficult decision to decide between the two because they could both be so good, and I may end up reading both, but I did decide to go with The Christmas People because, first of all, I already have a B.K. Borson Christmas book on my TBR, so I might get a little B.K. Borson out, but you could tell I was really thinking about it and really trying to decide. But I did eventually decide to go with The Christmas People, and I think it's going to be a really great addition. All right, so here we are with the full TBR for December. We've got Good Spirits by B.K. Borson, Wandering Wild by Lynette Noni, Sword Heart by Teen Kingfisher, Skipping Christmas by John Grisham, Stalking Jack the Ripper, and Christmas People. So I think it's going to be a really great month of reading, lots of fun books to read, and it will give me a little bit of flexibility. Do I think I'll read all of these? Probably not. I'm probably going to incorporate some other books as well, but I do think that's going to be a really great start. So if you enjoyed this video, I promise that I'm going to figure out the audio and we won't have to do this voiceover thing every time. But maybe you liked it. I hope you did. I hope you guys will stick around. I'd really love to grow this channel and learn more and more about how to edit and how to make sure that all my equipment is functioning, etc. But I do think it can be a really fun thing. So I'd love it if you'd stick around. So please like and subscribe, and maybe leave a comment down below so we can talk about the things that, are on your mind. If you have an idea for some TBR if you have some ideas for some TBR prompt, that is fine. Please leave them down below. Or if you like reading vlogs where when people read for 24 hours straight, or like tomorrow I'm going to be posting a video of me and the kids going to the library. So lots of bookish content coming, also lots of thrifting, and then of course my girls trip. So please like and subscribe so you can keep caught up on all of those things. Okay guys, that's TBR. I hope you'll like and subscribe.